Talking.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
Fuel your appetite for adrenalised afternoon radio on the Drive Time show that's going all over the country. It's the superior work-to-sofa transmission system with intelligent presenter technology fitted as standard. Delaney, live at Drive on Talk Radio.
Yeah, this is Drive. Thanks for joining me. Sam Delaney with you through till 7. Hope your Monday's going swimmingly. Bad news about the impending war, isn't it? Or, you know, maybe exciting. I don't know. I'll tell you this much. Covering Brexit every day, as I have mentioned before, we will, of course, endeavour at all times on Talk Radio to keep you across all of the important news arising from the Brexit negotiations and all the important issues arising from it also. And we love to discuss all of those. However, you've got to understand that a lot of what's going to follow over the next few months, at the very least, perhaps year, is a bunch of tedious civil servants poring over very dull trade agreements. And therefore, to find a relentless source of new angles to take, new things to worry about, new things to argue about, it's not always easy. But a war, well, everyone can get interested in that. A war with Spain, one of our historical rivals, even better. Spain gets a Brexit, was the Sun headline today, claiming that the Prime Minister was ready to fight for Gib, the Rock of Gibraltar. Who's in charge of Gibraltar has been called into question now after Brexit, it appears. And Michael Howard, former leader of the Conservative Party, was sort of cajoled, you might say, on Sky News yesterday into saying, yeah, who knows, maybe Theresa May will go the whole hog just like Thatcher did over the Falklands. Next thing you know, there's a government minister in Spain responding to it and saying Britain has lost its cool. Britain hasn't lost its cool. Theresa May's laughing about this, OK? No one's lost their cool. This is a guy who led the Conservative Party when it was out of power about 15 years ago, who said it in a moment of madness on a Sky News interview. Anyway, that's the story doing the rounds about Britain declaring war on Spain over ownership of Gibraltar. Meanwhile, The Guardian, amongst others, says this: Trump is ready to go it alone if China don't act over North Korea. So that's two major wars, one of them nuclear, being mooted by the national press today. Scary stuff. But how real is the prospect of either of these conflicts? Or does it just make for a sexy headline? Let's get the truth now and ask the Sun's defence editor, David Willits. Hello, David.
Morning, how are you? How you doing?
Not bad. Thanks for joining us. Do you think either Britain or Spain genuinely are willing to go to war over Gibraltar?
Categorically not.
Right.
It's not going to happen, not in a million years. But,
yeah.
I mean, it's all good fun.
It is.
I think it's just this weird coincidence, isn't it? This other weekend, it was the beginning, the 35th anniversary of the beginning of the Falklands campaign. I've been there a lot, and it's just a completely different kettle of fish. The significant thing about the Falklands was obviously Argentina invaded because they felt that if they did, Britain would not respond because of the public way they were talking about the Falklands. Or a bit sort of, they didn't give a clear indication whether they would defend them or not. They were sort of a bit funny about it. Do we really want this as part of as a UK overseas territory? And they took those signals the wrong way. But no one's taking the signals the wrong way when it comes to Gibraltar. I mean, straight out the trap. You got Howard saying these crazy things. I mean, Spain and the UK are in NATO together. I mean, it's just, there's more chance of me taking a picnic on the surface of the moon than Britain going to war with Spain over Gibraltar. It's just another crackers moment in this, what is going to be, like you say, like 2 years of craziness with Brexit. But it ain't going to happen.
Do you think that's it? You think, basically, the reality of Brexit right now is no one really knows what's going to happen, and the practicalities involve, as I say, bureaucrats poring over trade deals and the like. And this is perhaps even, Remainers, call them what you want, looking for another disaster scenario.
I don't know if it's like, there's just this, I don't know if that's the case, or there's just this massive appetite. And look, you're right. I mean, trade deals are not the sexiest documents in the world. It will be a miracle if we get one in the next 2 years. And so people have this massive appetite to want to know what will Brexit look like for their finances, for their job, for the future of their country, for the laws, for migration. They want to know. They want answers now. I'm like, my thinking is, we're probably not going to know the realities of Brexit for like another decade. But they want to know them now, and you're not going to get any answers. So we put that letter, the trigger in the Article 50. People spent 2 days talking about it. What does it say? What doesn't it say? And all this sort of stuff. And now you're going to get any minute bit of news out of Brussels or UK or any of the 27 other member states and implications and this sort of thing. And, someone hadn't probably thought about it, but just thought they were being considerate, saying, well, when there's a conversation about Gibraltar, we should talk to Spain because they share a border crossing with Spain. Now, the reality is life isn't easy for Gibraltarians when it comes to, the Spanish do make it difficult for Gibraltar already. I've done stories about the Navy sort of patrol vessels firing flares at Spanish vessels who are, incurring into the waters. They make things difficult. Sometimes they close the borderway and they're not easy to get along with. So I think it will be tough for Gibraltarians, but this is like the first, I don't even want to call it a salvo, the first flash of what it's going to be 2 years. And in next week, it's going to be something else. It's going to be another capital or another country having a say on what's going on. And London is going to have to, the UK Parliament is going to have to fight off, lots of little these, do a lot of firefighting from a lot of other countries over the next 2 years.
So, David, your headline today, Spain gets a Brexit. I did think that was a good headline, by the way.
It's a great headline.
It is, yeah, and PM ready to fight for Gib as the subhead. I really liked the whole coverage of the story. But as you say, it's a bit of fun. Most people would get that. You're kind of mocking the very idea of it. And yet we have a Spanish government minister, as I understand it, today saying, oh, well, the UK has lost its cool. But this is basically Michael Howard in an unguarded moment. He might even regret what he said, who's got nothing to do with the current government. A newspaper like yours making a tongue-in-cheek, clearly ironic headline, and suddenly it's actually had a diplomatic impact.
Yeah, but then, Theresa May's response is right. She's laughing. I think the quote was, we're going to have Georgia rather than war. It's like I think it's a famous Winston Churchill thing. Once the bloke said it, Howe said it, it's not like he could take it back and apologise. So, I think he's been caught out, and I think what he should have been saying was, yes, of course, the UK is totally prepared to fight for Gibraltar. But diplomatically, because everybody knows there's no way. I mean, Spain is like a historic. When we're saying historic, we're talking like centuries ago. The Gibraltar future was settled in 1730 or something like that. Centuries ago, we're talking about. Spain now is we would want to have trade agreements with it. Part of the EU. Everyone goes on holiday there. They aren't enemies now, and there's absolutely no possibility. And I just think maybe the government minister over in Spain or in Gibraltar is like, right, people are getting, to the point, he's right, people are getting overexcited about it. But this is one, like you said it best, look, this is a guy who was leading the Conservatives when they were in the wilderness politically, and he's made a silly comment to, get a few people excited. But
I love to, I don't know about you, but sometimes if I'm looking for a sensational or provocative quote, the first place I look is for a former Tory cabinet minister from the Thatcher era who hasn't been asked for a quote for a while, because they usually come up trumps.
They do. I mean, I haven't seen him on TV. Maybe he's like a bit low on cash. I haven't seen him on TV for the last 2 years. You've got to say something. We've got to get this bloke back on.
They're the ones who are ripe to say something crazy, and so it's proved again. David, pleasure talking to you. Thanks for your time. Okay, I always think in a situation like this where there are two prospective wars being floated about in the national press, we need a voice of reason. You're not going to get that from me, right? I'm not here to give you reason. I am here to give you my opinions such as they are at the moment. They come out of my mouth. They're always subject to change, and a U-turn could happen at any moment, okay? But you know that. You don't come to me for reason. And a lot of my guests are arguing from an extremely partisan point of view. I mean, even David Willits there, it was very sober, but, chuckled about the fact that these headlines that they publish in The Sun are all a bit of fun. And I actually agree with that. And if you complain too much about some of this stuff where it's clearly tongue-in-cheek, you got yourself to look at for not, having a sense of humour or being able to distinguish between stuff that is tongue-in-cheek and ironic and stuff that is the real deal. Nevertheless, we are being told that Donald Trump is gearing up for potential confrontation with North Korea over their nuclear ambitions. He basically said if China don't confront or curtail North Korea, then we will act alone. A lot of people saying, what's he mean? What's he mean? He's completely mad. He means that he's ready to take military action against another nuclear power. How worried should we all be about that? We need a voice of reason. That voice of reason is Lee Jones, Senior Lecturer in International Politics at Queen Mary University, and joins us now. Hello, Lee.
Hi there.
Is it true that your nickname was once the Voice of Reason?
That's what my GCSE politics teacher used to call me.
Well, that is fantastic news for us, because that's what we need on this station, particularly on this show. And now, tell us, is there a chance that Donald Trump's going to bomb North Korea?
I don't think so. I mean, this is just a throwaway comment a throwaway comment he made in an interview with the Financial Times. And all he said is, if China is not going to solve North Korea, we will. And this is ahead of a summit between him and the Chinese leader, Xi Jinping. And what he's trying to do is simply stoke up press coverage and try to put pressure on Beijing, to put pressure on North Korea to try to get North Korea to abandon its nuclear weapons program. So I don't really think that Trump has any intention of starting a war with North Korea anytime soon.
Are the mainstream media just addicted a little bit to stirring up small throwaway remarks into huge dramatic stories?
Yes, and certainly when it comes to Trump, because every day there's a new tweet, and it makes for very easy headline and story writing for lazy journalists who don't want to leave their desk or do much work, because it's always just Trump's latest tweet. And if this continues, it's going to be a very long 4 years, and it's not very edifying or enlightening. It's rather like the Gibraltar story. You had your previous guest on chuckling that it was all a bit of fun. Is it serious? Is the Sun supposed to be a serious newspaper, or is it just a comic book?
Well, I suppose there is I always think it's not that difficult to distinguish between the type of reporting in a newspaper that is supposed to be slightly tongue-in-cheek and stuff that's supposed to be more serious. And I think that all newspapers have a mix of both. And actually, tabloid newspapers at their best do that mix very, very well. And I think that everyone's kind of, acts a little bit disingenuous about, being able to distinguish between those two things. I think, obviously, the Sun run a headline, Spain gets a Brexit, a small story, which is effectively, when you read it, kind of making a joke out of what Michael Howard said at Michael Howard's expense. The way in which this North Korea story is being covered by much more serious news outlets today kind of, elevate his quotes a little bit more seriously. I mean, it could be worrying.
No, I don't agree with you. I mean, the Daily Telegraph reported the same story in the same sort of breathless, ridiculous way. That the right seemed to be sort of panting for a new war, and then it was circulated across Twitter, and many people...
Is this the Gibraltar story or the Korea story?
The Gibraltar story. And then the Financial Times is trying to pimp up its own interview with Trump by talking up the North Korea conflict story, by running that as a separate story, and then that gets picked up by other media. So, in fact, there's a very, very similar process at work here, which is that one small quotation or one small interview or whatever is blown out of all proportion to the day's headlines, and then it goes round and round the media sphere because of 24-hour news coverage, and it becomes this kind of feeding frenzy. And it's not at all enlightening or edifying.
Where do you get your news from?
I get it from a very wide range of sources. So I use Twitter as to kind of curate a news feed from lots of different reliable sources. And, you have to really kind of read news reports very carefully to see what's going on. And I think sometimes, even with the quality press, you have to really be very sceptical about what you're being told.
Lee Jones, great to have some sort of semblance of reason on the show. Thanks for putting our minds at ease. That's Lee Jones there, who is a Senior Lecturer in International Politics, Queen Mary University, and also our newly appointed Voice of Reason. I hope we'll be hearing more of him in the future to make sense of this strange world. You're listening to Sam Delaney. The time is 6:20. If you want to get in touch with the show, please do so at Delaney Man or TalkRadio on Twitter.
Talk Radio.
Join the Talk Nation.
Pick up